The BC Lions visit the Winnipeg Blue Bombers on Thursday night at IG Field in a battle of undefeated West Division teams. The Bombers covered a large spread last week against Saskatchewan and are around 6-point favorites against the Leos. Do you think Big Blue can cover again?
Well, last week I pointed up to the buffet with my fork and knife and I ate all those points. And guess what? The Bombers not only covered a touchdown in Riderville, but they more than doubled that, right? This was a game the Riders played very well in, and they got their butts whooped, right? Like this Winnipeg team, at some point, I still think later on in the year, other teams and injuries will obviously play a large factor in this. But I think other teams will catch up to Winnipeg to at least some extent, give them a run for their money. But it's pretty clear that the road to the Grey Cup, at least in the West Division, very much runs through IG Field. With all due respect to the BC Lions, who I have as the second best team in the West right now, only a little bit over, I would honestly say probably the Saskatchewan Roughriders in spot number 3 at the moment. I don't think they're going to be able to come into IG and cover this spread. I certainly don't think they're going to win. Dominic Rhymes is out. He's their best receiver in my view. Keon Hatcher's still out. Yes, they get Lucky Whitehead back. That's nice, especially because Winnipeg, by the way, is starting a rookie at boundary cornerback with Demario Houston out. That's one thing to watch. Maybe Vernon Adams Jr. and Lucky Whitehead can get that going, but it's going to be hostile territory. The crowd at IG is going to be big. It's going to be loud, and I have the Bombers winning this game and covering that spread.
Well, I think it's indisputed that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are the powerhouse team in the CFL right now, and I simply don't see a half-strength BC Lions offense beating them in this game. You need Keon Hatcher and Dominic Rhymes healthy to be able to pull that type of upset. But this BC defense, they're the real deal. Ryan Phillips is one of the best young coaches in the CFL right now. They have talent all across the board, some really quality Canadians there, guys who are super underrated. So I'm going to pick Winnipeg straight up, but BC is going to cover this massive spread. I don't want to pick Winnipeg to cover until it gets to about 3 points, if it does so later in the week.
Hodge, I hope you got your napkin on because this is a lot of points to eat, okay? And as part of the reason I'm not going to pick the Bombers to cover, I think they win this game straight up, but Brady Oliveira is a game-time decision with a thorax injury, so I think that could play a role here too. And you mentioned the rookie starting at corner, and you got Lucky Whitehead over there who, when he's healthy, is one of the fastest, if not the fastest dude in the league. I think that can be exploited, and I agree with you guys. I think Dominic Rhymes being out of the lineup is a real blow to the Lions. I think he's their best receiver, and he's also the receiver that Vernon Adams Jr. seems to trust the most in this group right now. And I think the defense is a reason why the Lions can keep this one close. And I think the Lions have been underrated a little bit here. And yeah, they probably should have scored some more points against Edmonton last week, but I think that Elks defense is actually really good. And I think Chris Jones has them going. So I see a tighter ball game, and it's really hard to continue to win by margins like the Bombers have done in the CFL when it's such a small league. And now the Lions have a couple games of tape to study. So give me the Lions to cover, especially if it gets up over that 7 number. But I like the Bombers to win yet again. Zach Collaros has never lost to the BC Lions.
You guys are welcome to eat, or I'll eat the points, and next week you guys can eat your words. The Montreal Alouettes are coming off a bye and head to Steeltown for a matchup with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Matthew Schiltz will get the start in place of an injured Bo Levi Mitchell, and the Tabbies are short favorites after originally being favored by a field goal in this game. JC, can the Tabbies get their first win of the season without their $500,000 man?
I think they can. This is an interesting line because the Ticats are 0-2 and have not looked good through 2 games. The Alouettes won their first game, but yet Hamilton is favored, and I think this is correct. Right now, Matthew Schiltz might be a better option under center than Bo Levi Mitchell has been the last 2 weeks. I think that offense is going to look a little bit better this week, and even though Montreal got a close victory over a bad Ottawa team in week 1, I still don't have complete faith in that team. They've got some major holes, some young players who are going to have to prove it to me. I'm picking Hamilton to win this game.
Yeah, Montreal won like a mud fight in week 1 with Ottawa. That game was not glitzy or glamorous at all. And I like the value on the Tiger Cats here, and they have the better playmakers. Duke Williams, Tim White, James Butler. Give me them over whoever the Alouettes are going to run out there. I don't care if Austin Mack flashed in week 1. And yes, I know they have Willie Stanback back there, but I like the Tiger Cats in this spot. Short home favorites. There's going to be a lot of energy there at Tim Hortons Field, and the pressure is ratcheting it up real quick on Orlando Steinauer in his group. And I actually think they are some Bo Levi Mitchell turnovers away from at least having one win, if not two. If those turnovers stop, Matthew Schultz takes care of the football and add in his ability to run with it a little bit when needed. I think there's great value here on Hamilton to win this game straight up and cover.
Yeah, I'm going to take Hamilton up to a field goal. To me, this team, I don't think is going to look worse, frankly, with Matthew Schultz under center, at least given the version of Bo Levi Mitchell we saw in the first 2 weeks of the season. I'm happy to take the Tabbies as short favorites. I think this line actually is a little bit deflated because the Alouettes are coming off a win. Though, as Doug said, a win is a win. It counts as 2 points in the standings, but it was not a terribly impressive win as far as victories go.
The Saskatchewan Roughriders go to Cowtown on Saturday, where the green and white duel against the Calgary Stampeders in a battle of 1-1 teams. Trevor Harris threw for over 400 yards in last week's loss, while Jake Maier is still looking to get comfortable at the controls for the Stamps. Calgary is a 3.5-point favorite in this one. Do you think there's still value in taking the points?
Definitely there's value in taking the points and the Roughies on the money line. When you hear this podcast or watch it on YouTube, you got to get your money down before this line changes, because I can't understand how the Roughriders are getting 3 in the hook on the road for as good as they have looked. And there's a possibility that Derek Moncrief could be back in some form or fashion on defense. Craig Dickinson said he probably wouldn't start, but he likes to play things coy. So I think Moncrief back in the lineup could be a real bonus for that defense. And Trevor Harris seems to have all kinds of confidence and quickly developed a rhythm with these receivers in his receiving core. Sean Bain Jr. has had this one circled ever since leaving Calgary to go to Saskatchewan and get paid properly. So he's coming off a great game against the Blue Bombers. His confidence is high. I like Saskatchewan to win. Straight up, spread, money line, put your money down, count all that green cash.
The one concern I have here for the Riders is last season when the Bombers went into Mosaic Stadium on Labor Day and the Bombers beat the Riders. Craig Dickinson talked about how that kind of deflated his team because the Riders played very well in that game, came away with a narrow loss. I believe Mark Leggio kicked a 55-yard field goal for the W. And they came out of the Banjo Bowl next week, albeit with stomach flu ravaging the team, but just played terribly, got their butts whipped. So to me, my only concern in this one, as great as the Riders played last week, they played very well despite losing by, I think it was 17 points. Are they going to come out deflated again? Because they played a great game against their Prairie rivals and still lost by a sizable margin. That said, it is still early in the season, so maybe that type of performance buoys the Riders a little bit. I'm not willing to go crazy on this spread. I would say up to +3. I'm happy to take the Riders, take the points, and beyond +3. Under +3, I'd be tempted to take the Stamps because I do think the Stampeders are going to win this game straight up at home, but I think it's going to be very close. So if you can get +3 or higher, again, I like the Riders. Under that, I'm a little skeptical.
With all due respect, Hodge, the performance of the team last year in a game where they were plagued by diarrhea and vomit plays no part in my decision-making here on this spread.
That was the Banjo Bowl. Didn't you say Labor Day?
The one afterwards when they had
Labor
the stomach
Day.
flu. Yeah.
Oh,
anyway,
right.
That plays no part in my decision here. I love the Riders in this matchup, and it comes down to quarterbacks. Trevor Harris looked far better in his game last week. 400 yards passing. I thought it was a legitimate performance from him. It wasn't inflated at all. He looked crisp despite the injury. And Jake Maier, he threw for 300 yards. People are going to be higher on him this week than they were in the past. But 2/3 of that, almost 200 yards, came after the catch. He's still dinking and dunking his way down the field, relying on his receivers on screens. That's not a way to win consistently in the CFL. So give me the Riders because I trust Trevor Harris.
The Edmonton Elks are trying to snap an 18-game losing streak. Where have you heard that before? On Sunday, when the Green and Gold host the defending Grey Cup champion Toronto Argonauts, Chad Kelly and company looked great in the Double Blues season opener last week, beating the Ticats by 18 points at BMO Field. The Elks sticking with Taylor Cornelius at QB for now, despite being shut out last week in Vancouver, and are 7-point underdogs at Commonwealth Stadium. Who do you have in this one and why?
7-point home dog to me is barking. It's screaming. It wants me to take it. But how do you pick a team to cover a 7-point spread when they just scored a grand total of 0 points? That is my struggle, especially when it appears they're going to trot out literally the exact same offensive group that they did a week ago. For that reason and for that reason alone, I need to take the Toronto Argonauts. Right now, I've got them at -6.5. I don't think I'd go beyond 7 points, but if it's a touchdown, yes. And I think one of the things that goes overlooked, Dunk mentioned it earlier, is Corey Mace's defense has been sensational. They do a great job of rotating along that front. They've got a lot of underrated players there. Robbie Smith is one of them. Thomas Costigan is another guy who can do a lot of damage coming off the edge in a rotational role. I think that this game is not going to be a blowout. I think Edmonton is going to look better, but I'm skeptical that they will be able to keep it in 7. I will take the Argos, as much as I detest picking against such a big home underdog.
News for all you people out there who bought a guaranteed win ticket earlier this year. You're probably coming back for another week at Commonwealth Stadium because I don't think Edmonton pulls this out. Now, this is going to be a real test for Chad Kelly because I do think that Chris Jones' defense is legit. He's one of the best defensive minds in the CFL, and he's really going to test a younger quarterback in Chad Kelly who doesn't have a whole lot of experience. It'll be telling how he performs. But with Taylor Cornelius under center, I cannot trust the Elks at all in this game to perform offensively until they make a change at quarterback. I'm picking Toronto to win and to cover no matter how big that spread gets.
There is no way I would encourage or tell anyone out there to put down their hard-earned money on the Edmonton Elks until they show any signs of life on offense, and that's earth to Taylor Cornelius. So I'm going to do what even I don't love, and I would agree with Hodge, lay the points on the road. I'm like Hodge. I got my fork and knife out with my napkin on, ready to eat my tofu and kale salad and gobble up all of these points because I just cannot lay any money on the Elks. I don't even care what the spread is right now. If it goes over 7, that's fine because they just have shown they cannot move the football consistently. And this Argonauts defense, a good chunk of it have played together for a while and have some chemistry, and they're getting Jamal Peters back at corner. Like they had a 21-year-old starting last week in Quintez Stiggers who intercepted Bo Levi Mitchell, and they decided to go with him because they wanted to get Peters back up to speed after he came back after being released from the Atlanta Falcons. But they really like Stiggers' upside, but they're getting Peters back, so it's going to get even more difficult for Cornelius to try to score points here. So I'm doing it. I'll take the defending champs on the road, even though I think the number's a little bit inflated, and it's going to be difficult for Chad Kelly to score points against Chris Jones, but sign me up for the double blue.